Good morning, everyone. This is Gagan Atreja on behalf of Torrent Pharma. I take this opportunity to welcome you all to today's unique webinar, which focuses on very fine aspects of interventional cardiology. Today's program is being attended by interventional cardiologists from India and abroad. It's indeed my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished panel members who are nothing less than a legend in the field of cardiology, not only nationally but globally. I welcome our program moderator, Dr. Ajay Mahajan, Professor, Department of Cardiology, Sion Hospital, Mumbai, and our speaker for the program, Dr. Tejas Patel, Chairman and Chief Interventional Cardiologist, Apex Heart Institute, Ahmedabad. Torrent is really fortunate to have both of them on the panel, and we extend our heartiest thanks to both of them. I'm sure today's program will leave all of us enriched with clinically useful knowledge and improve upon the fine art of percutaneous interventions. On behalf of Torrent Pharma, I welcome all distinguished delegates as well who have joined us for the webinar, and I expect that all the delegates will keep logged in till the end of the program. On behalf of Torrent Pharma, I once again welcome all and request Dr. Ajay Mahajan to take the proceedings further. Dr. Mahajan, sir, please.
Good morning, dear friends. Today is the day of learning. I know Professor Dr. Patel since last 30 years. Sir is now chief of the Apex Heart Institute, but he is a professor and head of the Department of Cardiology at VS Medical College. He graduated from BJ Medical College and he then started the UN Mehta Institute of Cardiology, Department of Cardiology. Then he became the chief in the field of interventional cardiology, and he is the authority, world authority, as far as the transradial interventions are concerned. He started the TRICO course in 2005. He is awarded with the BC Roy Award. He is a Padma Shri. He is the physician cardiologist to all VVIPs in the India and abroad. He is a visiting professor of medicine in Virginia University. He is having very many firsts. One of that is robotic cardiology. He is the only cardiologist who had done the most distant angioplasty. So suppose somebody is ill on international space station, then sir is the only cardiologist who can perform the procedure in the sky, in the space. He is the author of transradial intervention chapter in the Grossman's textbook of interventional cardiology. So with this introduction, I am going to introduce you Dr. Tejas Patel, sir. The most important thing which I learned from sir is he is most workaholic, and everybody now in this program will think he is the hardcore interventional cardiologist, but he is a hardcore cardiologist. You can discuss any drug trial with him. He is the thorough clinical cardiologist also. So you can talk on any clinical sign and symptom of cardiology, and he can tell you all the trials, and he can teach you a lot many things on that particular thing. So whenever I meet sir, I learn something, and today is my day of learning. So I am not taking your time. I will introduce, I will ask Professor Patel sir to start his lecture, and today's lecture is one of the most appreciated lecture across the world. So Professor Dr. Patel sir, please.
Thank you very much, Ajay. It is always my pleasure, honor, and privilege, to have you on any forum, in person or in as a distant faculty. This particular talk is actually the honest confession of, all the complications me and my team, Dr. Sanjay, and we have seen, we have done, sometimes knowingly, many times unknowingly, And this is the gist of 30 years of experience of complications and how we dealt with them successfully, or sometimes, we were unsuccessful also. And I'm going to confess in front of the audience everything, and whatever I know, I have tried, my best to put it in this particular talk. Of course, I don't have any disclosure as far as the financial interest is concerned. I think everybody knows Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong someday. And if there are two or more ways to do something, and one of those ways can result in a catastrophe, then someone will definitely do it. Geoffrey Hertzler, I think many young interventionalists must not have heard his name, but he was our hero when we were young. He was the one who, after Andreas Gunzik introduced intervention, he was one who completely facelifted intervention, and he opened up so many avenues like performing left main intervention, performing acute MI intervention, performing multivessel and everything. And he always used to say that if all possible complications haven't happened to you, you just haven't done enough cases. And so it happens. Sometimes, as I told you, knowingly, sometimes unknowingly, you create some disaster. Learning objectives of this talk is, I have kept some cases and I will discuss what went wrong, how was it fixed or we were not able to fix, and was it prevented. This is the first case I am throwing in front of you. 64-year-old gentleman, hypertensive, class 3 angina, fair LV function, CAG, coronary angiogram revealed critical left main bifurcation stenosis. Let me tell you that we have one of the largest LMCA stenting programs in the world. Syntax Core 18 plan was to go ahead with T-stenting of critical left main bifurcation stenosis. Of course, this was done before many years, so the IVUS was under IVUS imaging. This was the case, Medina class 111. So naturally, we were quite comfortable. We thought that, of course, within half an hour or 40 minutes, we should be able to fix this. And with that mind, me and my partner Sanjay started this case. And see, guide catheter introduction, and we created a disaster. Extremely bad, nasty looking dissection in the left main. So patient was becoming unstable. From 140, the pressure came down to 100, in 90s, and we were thinking of putting balloon and everything. But then we thought of improvising our plan. And of course, this is very important even for young guys to know that keep your LAD open to keep the patient alive. And this I always teach my juniors also, the new students and fellows also. And that is what exactly we did. We somehow wired LAD through this nasty dissection. We dilated with the balloon and we stented without thinking a bit of circumflex, and we kept LAD flowing. And you can see TIMI grade 1 flow in circumflex. Now we had time. Patient had ongoing pain and STT changes and everything. And we tried to make the patient a bit quiet by giving some conscious sedation. And we crossed through the stand struts and we entered the circumflex. Dilated. We did T-stenting, but we changed it, we modified it, and then the kissing balloon followed by, imaging, IVUS imaging, and this was the final result. We didn't bother about the ramus. Ramus was snowplowed, but most important thing is, to keep the patient alive in the cath lab, and this is what I always feel. And for that, you have to keep LAD open. And that is what exactly we did. Patient did well. Patient is still in the follow-up since last 3 years, doing perfectly all right. And this was the end result. Even the circumflex after giving nitroglycerin, everything, Ramus grade 2 flow. Another case is a 45-year-old gentleman, smoker, dyslipidemic, class 2 angina, normal ventricle, EKG showing anterior wall STT changes, coronary angiogram revealed normal RCA, normal circ, and critical LED diagonal, typical bifurcation stenosis, Medina 110. The plan was, to do a sort of a tea or mini crush we were debating. But before we could, it looks quite simple because we are doing it regularly under imaging. But again, somehow we lifted the left main and patient became extremely unstable. This was not a right time also, the last case of a very busy interventional day, and everybody well tired and exhausted, and a young gentleman. We have kept, the surgical standby. We alarmed them. The surgeon was on his way, but somehow we were able to cannulate, non-selectively we are able to see. And again, as I told, we had only one thing in our mind. We forget about anything else. Keep LED open, left main to LED passage open. We were able to wire, LED as well as diagonal both. We stented LED without thinking much about diagonal. Diagonal origin was clean, but you can see still there is a lift, plaque, dissection in the left main ostium. We stented that. An image. We even didn't cross circumflex. We kept it as it is, and we just did imaging, OCT imaging of this region, and made sure that everything was fine. We didn't cross the diagonal. Didn't do any kissing over there. We didn't do any kissing at the circumflex because everything looked fine. Patient became stable, and we accepted this result. Patient in the follow-up is doing good. Another 72-year-old gentleman, diabetic, bad case, chronic renal failure on hemodialysis. These people, this is the subset of patients who are quite tricky on the CAT table because the arteries are sometimes very papery thin and very sort of a terrible type of artery. You can tear them anytime. Acute anterior wall MI, severe LV dysfunction, cardiogenic shock, long left main dissection extending in proximal LAD, bifurcation stenosis, and a mid-long LAD lesion, syntax score pretty high, and plant primary PCI on IBP support. This was the case. You can see a bad spontaneous dissection. This we didn't do. It was there even during angio, and we crossed LAD, circ, dilated, and here we stented LAD, we stented, across the left main. We crossed through the strut in the circumflex. We dilate the strut and did the kissing to give a reasonably clean result. Again, better is enemy of good, and that's why we didn't chase that obtuse marginal, which is almost a medium-sized artery. We thought that can be managed medically, and we came out with an acceptable, clean result. Patient did well. Another 75-year-old gentleman, diabetic, hyperlipidemic, presenting with NSTE ACS, gross anterior wall STT changes, mild LV dysfunction, syntax score 25, PCI to LAD diagonal bifurcation was, planned, not a good-looking arterial tree. And this case, we somehow created a very nasty left main dissection, and you can see we tried to enter LAD, not able to enter. We put a balloon pump, and from cath lab only, the patient was shifted in the theater and grafting was done, and we were able to revive the patient. Important thing, even for the young guys who are in their practice, is never ever make this an ego issue to enter. Uh, you have to keep your eye on the blood pressure, the hemodynamics, and everything. And if you feel that patient has very little time, then without hesitation, you may have to, alarm your surgical backup and subject this type of patient for bypass surgery. Again, as I told, patient's life is more important than anything else. Another case is a 54-year-old gentleman, diabetic, class 2 angina, normal LV function. Plan was PCI to LED and LCX lesion. We started with LED, looks very easy lesion. There is a diagonal. We didn't think that the diagonal we will do anything because the origin was not all that bad. But while doing that, you can see, while pulling our balloon back, inadvertently, the guide catheter got sucked inside the left main, and see what we created there. This was a horrifying sort of dissection, and you can see this was the picture. But here, here we trusted our experience in this type of cases. Patient was pretty good hemodynamically, maintaining pretty well, and we were sure that this is myocardial staining and nothing is going inside the pericardium. We waited for almost 40-45 minutes in the cath lab and tried to take shoot intermittently, and you can see how it improved, and it improved further. And at this particular stage, we shifted the patient back, allowed the patient to stabilize for a couple of days, again took the patient back, checked the result, and fixed the circumflex artery. 81-year-old gentleman, known case of coronary artery disease, hypertension, diabetes, class 3 angina, moderate LV dysfunction. Coronary angiogram revealed proximal LAD, heavily calcified LAD segment, totally occluded OM1 and otherwise normal LCX, totally occluded RCA in the mid segment, LCX giving extensive collaterals to fill up the distal RCA, syntax scores 30. We tried to convince the patient for surgery. Patient refused surgery. So reluctantly, we planned rotational atherectomy and LAD stenting. And we did. You can see how important is circumflex in this patient for the patient. The collaterals are giving it gives good collaterals to fill up the RCA. And rota was done successfully, stenting was done, but by that time, patient started having excruciating chest pain with lateral wall ST elevation, and circ closed. Without wasting time, we entered in, we fixed the circ. Here, the important thing is you can see that we created aortic root dissection there. We waited for some time. The root dissection was remaining pretty stable, and we didn't think of doing anything to that. Patient was shifted back, taken again back on the third day just to check that everything is fine. Everything looked good, and we were fine. 75-year-old female, hypertensive, diabetic, class 2 angina, mild LV dysfunction. Plan was to do PCI of mid-segment, CTO of RCA and endoluminal reconstruction. We get this type of cases, and we work on the CTO. This was the thing, and here we thought that we will need left implants, and we deployed left implants. Everything looked good. We could cross a long diffuse CTO. But here, I would like to point out something. You can see the catheter tip is not at a right position, which we realized a bit late, and we created this complication. This was, aortic root dissection. But whenever this type of dissection we face, it happens even with this experience, maybe once in a couple of years, somehow or other, we are able to manage. You have to just fix the ostium with a stent. so it won't extend. And that is what exactly we did. And we were able to get a reasonably good result. Patient did well. Another case was a 58-year-old female diabetic, NST, ACS, mild LV dysfunction. We thought of implanting, absorb for culprit LED lesion because patient wanted absorb. It was not the best artery for absorb. We knew that. We did it, we dilated, everything looked good. Patient was shifted in ICU, but within an hour, ST elevation, discomfort, hypotension, we have to take the patient back, and LED was total. We wired the LED, and while we were negotiating the balloon, we saw that the artery has started flowing. So this was the test. We are applying this test sometimes to know whether it is a thrombus or a flap which has occluded the artery. I removed the balloon and injected, and you see it is occluded. Again, I introduced the balloon, it started flowing. So we were very clear that we don't need ReoPro or thrombectomy or anything. We have to just fix that flap, and we fixed it with, at that point of time, of course, Giants Prime, and end result, we got a good end result, and patient made it. So sometimes in this type of acute ST elevation, most of the time you have thrombus in mind and acute stent thrombosis in mind, but sometimes this flap can create a problem, and you have to identify, diagnose it, and you have to fix it. A 49-year-old gentleman, hypertension, effort angina class 2, normal LV function, CAG revealed type C lesion in the mid segment LCX. Plan was to fix the LCX. It looked pretty simple, and we fixed it. Everything looked good. But again, in 2 hours, patient became hypotensive, patient was sinking, echo was done, and we could see a significant pericardial effusion. Patient was tamponading. We took the patient back in the cath lab, drained the pericardium, and injected in the coronary. And here, if you see carefully, distally in this region, you can see a perforation made by the wire tip, which is very clearly seen here. Unfortunately, on that day, because of the expiry date, those particles were taken back by the company vendor and not replaced. So we tried everything. We tried to dissect that distal region to occlude it. We gave a balloon, but we didn't have any chance for deploying anything like covered stent because of the small caliber and everything. We did all the tricks of the trade. We were not successful. So because patient was very young and we didn't want to waste time, we subjected the patient to surgery by inflated balloon, keeping the guide catheter out of the left main, and surgeon could identify the perforation and he glued it. Patient did well, and we even didn't have to bypass that area. Somehow the check angiogram done before discharge showed clean artery. Another case is an 80-year-old female hypertensive diabetic class 3 angina, mild LV dysfunction. Plan was to stent LED and RCA lesions, and a long stent was deployed. We dilated, we stented, and there was a disaster. We dilated, we stented, a part was not opening. We went very aggressively on it, and this was the disaster. Multiple perforations. Tried to fix them using the covered stents, one after the other, and result looked reasonably good, but somehow patient was still leaking inside the pericardium, and we waited in the cath lab for 1 hour, and patient was collecting in the pericardium. So this case also we shifted from cath lab to the theater, and surgeon was able to find multiple cracks on the artery which was calcified. He tied up the artery proximally and distally and deployed a graft, and we were able to revive this patient. Another gentleman, a 38-year-old male patient, diabetic, family history, abnormal stress test, normal LV. We knew that this case is going to be normal, but the patient, because in view of extremely bad family history and abnormal stress test, wanted angiogram, and we thought that, okay, we will do a therapeutic angiogram and we'll show that patient that nothing is wrong. First injection, and air went in, a huge amount of air. There was a standstill on one side. We started massage. Patient was in 20s and 30s as far as the blood pressure was concerned. Lot of adrenaline and everything was given. And you can see, once the pressure came to 60, 70, we tried to see, and still there is hold up in PLV and PDA region. This was a case of massive pulmonary air embolism inside the coronary. Here, for a beginner, I will say that you have to inject a lot of fluid inside the coronary just to make sure that all the air particle will go in the distal territory and you can remove that. But here, because we are in the habit of doing deep implantation, here I thought of that trick which we normally use. This thing. I'll show you this. This is how a 5 French guide was straight away introduced inside without wasting time, because we knew that the artery was big. And we removed everything, put a 50 cc syringe and sucked the air out. We are sucking the air out, and this is how it looked. Everything became perfect, and we were happy to see this. Here is another case, 64-year-old female, hypertensive, history of old anterior wall MI, and presented with acute inferior wall, severe LV dysfunction, organized LV apical clot. CAG revealed total LAD, CTO, fresh occlusion of proximal RCA, extremely unstable patient. We thought of doing primary PCI of RCA lesion. This is an LV angio. You can appreciate an organized clot at the apex, hypokinetic anterior wall, and poor LV function. And this was the RCA, which was very dominant but occluded from beginning. So a very, very short time period we had to fix it, while we dilated and injected inadvertently. Lot of air also went in, which created a very, very complex situation, in a situation which was already very critical. And we have published the data about balloon assisted coronary deep intubation. The article has been published in International Journal of Cardiology. We use that technique, a 2 mm balloon, and balloon assisted tracking, which we are using in radial, we have used inside the coronary, went in deep and sucked the thrombus out. We are sucking the thrombus using a 50 cc syringe, completely open, negative pressure, and the thrombus was removed. And you can see the artery, the quality of artery was too good. Otherwise, we could fix it with the stent. And this is how we were able, to bring the patient out of the mess, which was partly created by us. Another case, a 50-year-old female diabetic referred to us for PCI of LAD lesion. Here in this case, you can see we offered a good result, but I was showed some under expansion. So we went in to dilate further with a non-compliant balloon, but somehow in the process, the shaft of the balloon broke inside the coronary. It broke inside the coronary, and it was partly inside the guide catheter and partly inside the coronary. Now what to do? I had the balloon, the rest of the shaft in my hand, and this was hanging inside the coronary. Here we have a trick to show a wire, another wire we pushed, and a balloon on the wire, and we sandwiched the shaft between the guide catheter wall and a balloon which was inflated at high pressure and removed the whole assembly, including that embolized, partly embolized shaft of the catheter. And on under fluoroscopic guidance, we removed everything. And we had some difficulty. We removed it with the sheath, everything out. Again, we went in from the other end, we fixed everything, and this is how we were able to get the material, both the things. And this was the balloon with the shaft, you know, at a particular transition which was broken. We were able to bring it out, and we could save a surgery to the patient. Another case, a 56-year-old male, hypertension, post-LAD, IVUS evaluation we were doing. And here, at that point of time, you know, the IVUS tip, part of the IVUS catheter tip was broken inside. And we are trying to retrieve it using the same technique which we used before, but it was not working. It was just not working. And then we are trying to pull it back. It is still not working. So here we put another wire. I mean, we removed it and we pushed the catheter using another balloon, and the particular small catheter tip of the IVUS was pushed inside, very deep inside the LAD. Here you can see the tip of the material. Here you can see the tip of the material, and it is a very inconsequential area, and that is how we were able to manage this case. And it remained inside, and in follow-up, patient is doing well. Another case, a 72-year-old male, hypertensive diabetic, referred for multivessel stenting. And while performing circumflex stenting, we were not able to go in, and the balloon came out. This was another good American FDA approved stent, but the balloon came out and uninflated stent was hanging inside the proximal circumflex area, of course, on the wire. We had certain tricks in our mind, and we applied. We took a 1.5 millimeter balloon, and we were able to negotiate the lowest profile balloon across the uninflated stent. And then we inflated that balloon, and we pushed the catheter tip little in, and the whole assembly was brought out. And that is how we were able to remove this stent. And we abandoned the procedure and took it as a stage procedure after 24 hours. And this is how we were able to get that particular uninflated stent, and we were able to save surgery to the patient. A 64-year-old male, unstable angina, post-CABG status, severe LV dysfunction, SVG to RCA was accredited. Plan was to do PCI to native RCA. But in the process, after the process, we saw the white tip of the guide catheter is hanging. Here is the white tip of the guide catheter, which is hanging on the wire. And we went through the groin using the snare. We were able to catch hold of the distal tip of the wire, and then we pulled it back. And then we made sure that we took another diagnostic catheter, multi-purpose, and pushed the segment in as much inside as possible using that distal tip of the catheter through the which we used through the radial artery. And this is how this was 125 centimeter long multi-purpose. We were able to push it down, and we were able to remove through the groin everything. And this is how that tip came out. Another case is a 61-year-old gentleman, diabetic, class 3 angina, status post PCI, LAD and RCA, moderate LV dysfunction, critical stent age stenosis in mid RCA, PCI we planned over there. Here we thought that the proximal RCA is okay, and we will fix that area of in-stent. We fixed it. But when we were injecting we realized that there is a critical right ostial stenosis, because it was, ventricularizing every time when we cannulated. So in the process, we thought that we should fix it. So we dilated with a regular balloon and we tried to fix it. Another American FDA approved stent and uninflated stent remained there and balloon came out. And unfortunately, there was a panic situation and we lost control over everything. Even the wire also came out. And now you can see a stent uninflated hanging in the right ostium. So we had no other way but to try to remove it. And if we can't remove, then we can't keep it like this. We have to ask surgeon to do. And we tried with the snare, gooseneck snare, and we were able to catch hold of that uninflated stent. And slowly we are withdrawing and coming out, and we removed it. And once we removed it, we again went back, aggressively dilated that area using a non-compliant balloon, stented it with a good end result, and we were lucky. And even the patient was lucky that we didn't have to send him for surgery. The last case is a 50-year-old female, diabetic, dyslipidemic, RCA stented before 5 years, class 2 angina, and LAD, very discrete lesion. We thought we'll fix it and come out. But see, in simple cases, sometimes you can create a very nasty looking complication, and this is how we create. One thing for all young guys, I have one advice: whenever you are doing your intervention, your one eye has to be at the tip of the guide catheter and other eye has to be at the tip of your guide wire, and then you are able to avoid most of the complications. And here the guide catheter induced left main dissection. We thought that we will fix it very fast. We used the 4mm balloon and we thought that stent, and we thought that with 5mm balloon we will dilate. But somehow in the process, while pulling the balloon back, you can see the stent has come out and stent has been sleeved over the guide catheter and everything is hanging. Very, very complex situation. We got trapped. First thing we did was to keep the whole assembly in descending aorta. This was the first thing. A hanging stent with a balloon which is uninflated and a wire in descending aorta. Patient was unstable, patient was complaining of pain. We punctured the groin, went in very quickly inside, and this was a Judkins catheter. We saw the dissection area, dilated, stented, properly post-dilated, kept everything flowing. Everything looks good now. And then we worked on the removing that stent which was sleeved over the guide. This is how we went through the groin using a gooseneck snare. We pushed the wire which we removed and brought it out from the femoral. The wire, we were able to successfully bring it out through the femoral. And then we went in with a guide, and on the guide we put a wire, and then we were able to keep both the things very near, and still we wanted to make sure that that it doesn't slip anywhere inside, either in iliac or inside the femoral. So we used the gooseneck snare, and the whole assembly very carefully. My partner Sanjay is pushing from the radial, I am pulling everything back from the groin, and we were able to bring everything out through the groin. And this is how this complex assembly came out from the groin. And we were happy that we were able to deal with this complication. But for my people and my team, Sanjay, Rajni, Yash, and everybody, we would not have been able to handle many of the situations created by us during last 25, 30 years. And teamwork is so vital, so important. And I'm grateful to Sanjay very much. of course, Rajni, who has also been a part of our team since 20 years, yes, and everybody else for being with me in the most difficult times inside the cath lab. And I have, this is an honest confession, my humble confession of all my complications created knowingly or unknowingly, and we have put it on paper, and we wrote this atlas with some of the international authorities, me, Sanjay and Samir, and some of the international authorities have also participated. Complications of coronary intervention, Patel's Atlas Plan B. I have taken these cases from this atlas, and I personally feel that it will be extremely useful to most young guys, and even in some complication with even the experienced guys, to deal with most difficult of the situations. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, sir, for excellent talk. There are certain questions we have to discuss. There is one question from Dr. Akbar Haq. Was dissection extended with every shoot? If yes, wiring before first shoot, your thoughts, sir? In case of dissection, if we think there is a dissection or if there is some staining,
yes,
rather than injecting the dye, we should wire first and then inject the dye.
But unless we know the anatomy, where are we going to track the wire? In one case, you can see that the left main was lifted in LED diagonal bifurcation. I kept my guide catheter just outside the coronary and left main ostium and blindly crossed it. But most of the time, I will give a very gentle injection to make sure my understanding of the anatomy, and then I will go further.
There is one important and very basic question. Guide induced dissection, would you always stent from the ostium?
Of course, guide induced dissection or left main ostium has to be fixed, because, or even the right ostium, if we have created a guide induced dissection, it has to be fixed, because that dissection, if you don't fix, then there are good chances that it will have a tendency to extend in the aorta, and that can create a very messy affair.
There is one interesting question from suggestion from Dr. Akbar regarding our case number 9, that is wire induced perforation. Was fat tried to embolize the distal segment of the perforation segment?
That is what I told, that the PVC particles at that point of time was not available in my lab. It got expired and the vendor took it back and he didn't replace, and we were taken aback. So now, in my cath lab, we have a SOP. Every time, there is one kit for emergency, and that has everything, and that kit has to be seen every weekly for expiry date and other things. So now we don't have that problem. But at that point of time, we were caught, unaware completely.
There is one question from Dr. Avinash. What are the other ways to treat the air embolism in the coronaries?
Yeah, that is what I told. Like for a beginner, deep intubation is a technique which I learned in France way back in 1993 from my very dear friend Helen Cribier, because French cardiologists are very fond of performing deep intubation. This is the technique which should not be performed by the new guys or those who are not comfortable with deep intubation. In the situation where you have air embolism, most important thing is to keep the pressure up and to keep the heart rate up. Tachycardia and good pressure and more contraction of the heart, and every time more filling of coronary in diastole will push the air very distally. And you go on flushing the coronary using the saline. This is how, but make sure that you give adrenaline, you do whatever to keep the pressure up. And if the pressure is in 50s, 60s and 70s and it takes more time for going up, then you may have to deploy intra-aortic balloon pump to make sure that diastolic filling of coronary is much better than normal, even with normal ventricular function.
There is one question from Dr. Praveen from Delhi. He's asking, so what are the sizes for the snares? Any tips for snare sizes on wire or without wire, and which snare should be kept on shelf for the coronary intervention?
I exactly, we have all these tests, snare management being done by my partner Sanjay. So we have 3 or 4 different snares available in our lab. So I don't know much about, the exact sizes, but whenever I need a particular size or a snare, I get it in my hand within half a second, 10 seconds or 15 seconds from the cath lab. But frankly speaking, if you ask me what are the sizes available, I don't know of that, because this is the part which is being managed by my partner Sanjay, and we always work together.
There is question from Dr. Rawat. Rawat sir is one of the big interventionist from the Mulund Fortis. He is thinking, do you think the incidence of left main dissections are more with radial as compared to femoral?
Not at all. Not at all. These are the complications, those 35, 40 complications in the book, which we have. Whenever there is complication in my lab, my foot is always on cine. So we have good documentation. And let me tell you, after doing more than 100,000 procedures as of now, that includes about 25 to 30,000 femoral and rest all radial, I can tell you that I don't think there is any difference. It is sometimes it happens if it is going to happen. Sometimes it is casual approach, and sometimes when you are extremely tired and you don't keep your eye at the tip of the guide catheter while doing these type of things, you can create this problem. So that is why it is very important to my fellows, to my students. I always teach that your one eye should be at the guide catheter tip, other eye should be at the guide wire tip, and you will save a lot of complications.
Is there any specific experience for any specific guiding catheter producing more dissections? We are having like that. There are certain guide catheters which are slightly more stiff at the end and which are very soft at the end.
In our lab, by and large, we are using Launcher, and Launcher, I think, is a good guide, and we are very happy with that. So I don't have experience of using many other different brands of guide. So since years, I am using the same guide.
There was some same question from Dr. Bhaskar, the type of guide catheters used in left main cases.
That, see, it all depends. Our left main case, we see the guide, left main size. If it is 4 millimeter more comfortable and we are doing bifurcation, our workhorse guide is EBU 3.5. But if the root is dilated, I may take EBU 4. But by and large, EBU 3.5. If I am working on an extremely short left main, and if I want to fix the ostium or something like that, then even if I take EBU 3.5 or EBU catheter, I will make sure that I am taking a EBU with side hole. And secondly, sometimes I may take JL catheter if I feel that we are working on a very small left.
There is also extension of this particular question. They are asking regarding any choice of guide wire in these situations.
Yeah, guide wire, whichever guide wire you are comfortable with. For many, many years in our lab, the workhorse guide wire was BMW. But since last few years, the workhorse guide wire is run through extra floppy. And but even the softest tip guide wire can create perforation. That has to be kept in at the back of your mind. If you are not very vigilant about watching that tip, it can create perforation.
Then there is one specific question regarding one specific complication. If the balloon is inflated and it is not going to get deflated, whatever 18 cases you are shown, this particular type of complication is not seen by the people. So they are asking, if the balloon is not able, we are not able to deflate the balloon, then what are the strategies to manage such cases?
Very good question. Very good question. I will bring the covered stand by the side of me and I will try to burst the balloon. If I can't burst the balloon somehow, we have done once when the balloon remained inflated in proximal LAD, but because it was proximal LAD, I could do. We took, a wire. the opposite end of the guide wire and very carefully slided my guide catheter very near to the balloon, and we perforated the balloon. But that is a very dangerous technique to use for a new operator. But if you are a very experienced operator and you know what exactly you are doing, you can do that.
Then what is the, there is one question from Dr. Anup. What is the percentage of use of Guidezilla used in your radial interventions?
Guidezilla, we have Guidezilla on the shelf and we have used it. But, you know, Guidezilla is something which, you know, you must be knowing the property of that particular device very well, every single property and its behavior. Otherwise, there are good chances that you will dissect the right ostium or left ostium. But carefully, when the things are clean, and if, you know, I want to, my stent is not going in the mid LAD because of whatever reason, I slowly take Guidezilla in the up to mid LAD or mid circ and try to push it in. But whenever I am using Guidezilla, I will make sure, me and Sanjay both, that we are extremely careful at each and every step of using Guidezilla, because it is a, if you remain casual like regular intervention, sometimes like pushing wire or balloon, it's not so. So it can create a very bad perforation or very bad dissection rather. So you have to be careful.
There is one question they are asking, in the case of that circ perforation, any specific guide wire was the responsible for that?
See, that's why I am telling, it was a run through extra floppy, still it perforated. So CTO wires have a tendency to perforate, but
yes,
even the regular wires also, if you are not careful, and there are few places where it can create tamponade. Diagonals are directly exposed to pericardium. PDA is directly exposed to pericardium, and obtuse marginals, lower obtuse marginals are directly exposed to pericardium. So any perforation, smallest of the perforation happening there can create tamponade.
Is there any easy way to fix the distal perforation by using half cut balloon which can be pushed distally over the wire?
See, in this case, if I had PVC particles, my job would have been extremely easy. I could have pushed Eliminate. Eliminate is a thrombosuction catheter from Terumo, having a good lumen and extremely good trackability. You can reach in whatever area of coronary you want to, and then straight away inject this thing, particles, and it will seal. Yes, if I have a larger branch just before the perforation, which can accommodate my covered stent, I could have excluded that perforation artery and put a covered stent from circumflex to another big obtuse marginal above. But there was no bigger branch more than 1.5 millimeter or 2 millimeter above. So I could not do that. That was also one plan in my mind to exclude the perforation by putting the covered stent to another branch from the circumflex.
There is one question coming from Dr. Shah from Rajkot. He is asking, have you experienced any dissection of coronary while deep intubation in LAD as well? Not left main. He is asking about LAD dissections.
Yeah, it can. But I have, you know, LAD dissection can happen when there is a bad ostial LAD lesion. Whenever there is a LAD lesion which extends from the LAD ostium, I am extremely careful. In my, maybe before 10 or 12 years, we had a couple of cases like that, but we were able to fix. And since, secondly, this can happen in one of the cases you saw when you pull your balloon back. And if it is a calcified segment or a very tortuous segment, when you are pulling your balloon, deflated balloon back, sometimes the catheter has a tendency to suck in. So you have to be extra careful. In that case, if there is a short left main and a tight ostial LAD, it can dissect.
Then there is one suggestion coming from Dr. Jayesh Prajapati sir. He is just telling, when we are not able to remove the balloon or stent, can we crush that particular?
Yeah, we have done that before. We have done that before. It is always, subjecting the patient for surgery in emergency situation is extremely painful experience for patient, for a cardiologist, and for a surgeon. So if you can avoid that, it is always good. Supposing the balloon, which had a very long shaft, I knew, was just a short area, and if the balloon is not coming out and it is inside, I could have gone in with another stent and crushed it for sure.
So there is one question, and I also want to ask one question. So there are these two questions are together. Sir, there is one question. This thrombosuction with the balloon assisted tracking method. So what is the ideal catheter size and type? And another important thing, if we are balloon assisted catheter is going guide inside the thrombus artery, so will it displace the thrombus and will it suck it, or will it tag the thrombus to the vessel wall?
See, you can see the first injection showed total right. And after dilatation, when I injected, there were a lot of air bubbles which went in. And I had some clue about the distal tract, which was full of thrombus, and the distal artery looked reasonably clean and straight. And that's why balloon assisted deep intubation was used. 6 French guide, if you are using, you can use 2 millimeter balloon, keep it half outside protruding, half inside, inflate it at 4 or 6 atmosphere, and you can track it. If I feel that the artery has more tortuosity, my pressures will be 2, 3 or 4, little lesser pressure. So the balloon also can play around through the tortuosity. If I have to go through a straight segment, I can keep a pressure of 7 or 8 also, because the balloon will be then very firm, and it will go like this, and you could see how easily it goes in. And we have done as of now almost 27 or 28 such cases.
Sir,
But
balloon assisted,
this technique I am using, Ajay, mainly for right,
not left.
Left we have used in some cases where I feel that LAD and circ have separate origin, and I have to suck the thrombus from either LAD or circ, and there is nothing like left main, then no problem, I can do that.
There is one question from Dr. Amit regarding covering of the ostia in aorto-ostial dissections. So is it always must to cover the ostia in aorto-ostial dissection?
Aorto-ostial dissection, if you don't cover ostia, there are good chances that you are putting your foot into trouble, because there is always a good chance that the dissection may extend in the aorta. See, one case which I wanted to include in the book, which I was not able to, was case done before 19 years. A young lady, this tight proximal LAD lesion. We thought that 5 minutes and we will be out. She had some connective tissue disorder, which we found at a later date. That particular case has been published in Angiology way back. Once we stented, the LAD dissection extended inside the left main, through and through in the circ, and in the aorta up to innominate. And we were really shaken. Me and Sanjay both were shaken in that case. And then what we did, we fixed the LAD ostium, we fixed the circumflex ostium, and we fixed the left main ostium. And then on the 3rd day and 7th day, we did angio. And then at the 6th month, we did angio, and everything was looking good. So
basic question.
It's important that you seal the entry point.
So always we have to do, after this tacking of the entry point, always we have to do pot at the ostial site.
Yeah, that you have to use a good sized balloon to make sure that you are sealing it properly. And then these are emergency situations, but if the patient is stable, nowadays, if we encounter this type of case, we will always love to do IVUS imaging or OCT imaging to see what is going on.
Then there is one basic question coming from Dr. Dr. Saeed from Bangalore. Is it safe to do PCI alone? Is it safe to do PCI alone? Is always something is needed for the help in cath lab?
In my life, I have never done PCI alone. Let me do honest confession. I need somebody around because emergency can arise even in the simplest of the case, and we don't want to lose our patient just because of non-availability of some other qualified person. So young guys who are practicing solo, my advice will be, even if you practice solo, it is fine, but make sure that you have sort of consortium that two or three of you work together for every case.
Some anesthetists backup, some surgeons backup, then some
Surgical backup, so we are not keeping since almost 2 decades now. Whenever we need, surgeon is always available. And anesthetist, with me, Dr. Rajni is an anesthetist who is always there in the lab. And without him, we are quite uncomfortable. Because whenever problem happens, you need right people at the right time.
So our protocol is that if there is some complications, if we are through radial, if there is some complication, always take a femoral vein, and preferably if there is need, you can take a femoral artery, watch the pressure, watch the hemodynamics. If there is a pericardial perforation or tamponade like thing, then always there should be one echo machine in the cath lab to see, and always inform the surgeons and try to do the relative these procedures of aspiration or reversal of the heparin, and then you can see, and always keep the patient in the cath lab till he gets stabilized.
Absolutely. We
That
have
is very important.
scan, Ajay, you have seen in the lab, cath lab. This scan is a very useful tiny tool which we always keep. And you have seen in several cases I have taken femoral to fix the complication. Not in all, but when need be, you always puncture the femoral to have an access. That's a very good.
There is one question regarding ask, that is a tips on preventing the guide dissections. So can we do all engagement in LAO projections for the left to avoid some dissection?
My strategy is to do the cannulation using AP view. But once I am cannulated, my guide catheter is cannulated, I will always take AP caudal to make sure that whether it is coaxial or not. Sometimes what happens is the tip of the guide catheter is facing towards the left main roof, and that is what has happened in a few of my cases. And in one case, the RCA, the Emplart's guide catheter tip facing down like this. So this you can always avoid. So keep one eye at the tip of the guide catheter, another eye at the tip of guide wire. Always go on seeing them periodically. Make a reflex to see these things to avoid disasters.
There is one question, sir. Which left main dissections are for stenting and which lesion dissections are for sending for surgery?
We have shown one case that there were multiple channels in the left main and my wire was not going, and I didn't make it an ego issue. I straight away sent the patient for surgery. Patient survived. So whenever you don't feel comfortable or you have non-availability of good number of people around to help you, then make sure that you put intra-aortic balloon pump and send the patient for surgery, because life is more important than anything else. And as I told you, whenever left main dissection happens, make sure that your LAD must flow, because LAD is a lifeline. And if LAD is flowing, you are alive.
There is one question from Dr. Samir from Delhi. Tips on wiring true lumen once dissection happens in coronary. What are the tips and tricks for entering into the true lumen?
Never push your wire. Allow the wire to find its way. Sometimes we give different shapes to the tip of the wire. Sometimes the lateral twist along with the primary curve, sometimes the tertiary curve to see. And once the wire is going in false lumen, and if you feel this is false lumen, never push it. Take another wire and try to enter the true lumen.
Then Chavan sir from Vadodara has asked one question. With massive air embolism with a diagnostic catheter, do you deep intubate the diagnostic catheter directly over guide wire or change it to over guiding catheter for guide catheter with a balloon to intubate? So with the diagnostic,
diagnostic catheter should never be deep intubated. Diagnostic catheter is very stiff as compared to guide catheter. Guide catheter is a hollow tube. So diagnostic catheter, if you try to deep intubate, you are likely to create, mess inside the coronary. Always use a guide catheter. And in my case, I have used the 5 French JR guide to go deep in. So through the 5 French diagnostic sheath.
There is one suggestion from Dr. Soborto from Faridabad regarding making a snare inside the cath lab. So that everybody is doing with the coronary wire and balloon, one can make the snare, but it takes some time. So at the time of emergency, always if snare is on shelf, then it is always going to help.
We have created an indigenous snare in the cath lab. You take a long 35 wire, 260 centimeter long wire, just make it into 2 like this and put inside the guide. You got my point?
Yes, sir.
And then you can go in with that. But this, works in very few situations. We had that device for cancer, in a cancer patient, for that catheter inside hanging in the superior vena cava. Cannula which was broken, and patient was referred to us for removing that. So we punctured femoral vein. We created an indigenous snare with a 7 French guide. We went in and we tried to catch hold. Once we caught hold inside that, you push the guide in, pull both the ends of the wire from the distal end in, and you can remove everything. So that is the way you can do.
Then there is one question: when you use a JL guide?
JL guide for...
Actually, I had seen you using JL guide for doing both left and right coronaries while doing the typo course.
Multi-vessel stenting, simple LED Shark, RCA, discrete type A, B1 lesions. We don't want to waste time. Then JL, fix LED, JL, fix circumflex, pull that guide back, opposite end of the 35 wire, I push in, rotate it, make JL into JR, and I will hook it. And JL, Ajay, let me tell you, once you properly coaxially hook inside the RCA, it is an excellent extra backup guide for us, believe me. And secondly, when I am dealing with a very short left main, or when I feel that this is a very short left main and I can create a complication using EBU, I am using JL.
Then there is one question: there is always a protocol of reversal of heparin when there is a perforation?
Yeah, it's a good question. See, perforation, once perforation happens, you have to activate your brain, and you have to make your plan 1, plan 2, plan 3, and if it doesn't work, you reverse it and send the patient for surgery. The first thing is, if it is a distal perforation, I will try to put PVC particle using the trick I told. If it is a perforation in mid LAD or something, and which is doable, which is fixable with the covered stent, I will fix it. Like if there is a perforation in PLV and there is a good size PDA, and that perforation I am not able to seal with other things, I will put my wire in the PDA, I will exclude PLV and deploy a covered stent going from distal right to PDA, and then you seal. These are different ways. People are doing coiling also inside, but coiling, I personally feel it is a bit crude thing to do. People who are experienced can do. And despite that, if I am not successful, I don't have ego to prevent patient going for surgery. We have saved 2 patients. After doing a complete covered stenting for 2-3 covered stent. Also, patient was leaking inside the pericardium and patient was saved. And I was standing inside the theater with my surgeon, Dr. Mehul Shah, who is an excellent surgeon and always rises to the occasion during emergency. And he showed me that there were multiple cracks on the artery, heavily calcified artery.
There is one suggestion from Dr. Samir Kabra from Delhi. Any thoughts on using warm saline to deflate the inflated balloon in coronary?
I am not aware of that.
I am also not aware.
I am not aware of that.
Then there is one suggestion from Dr. Siddhartha from Bangalore. Use of cut guidezilla to burst the inflated balloon. I am also not aware of this.
This can be, yeah, this can, see, what you can do is if there is a big 3.5 millimeter LAD or RCA, and you can track the guidezilla very near to that, nothing like that, you track the guidezilla, fix the mouth of the guidezilla on the balloon, inflated balloon, and then you push the opposite end of the wire to perforate it and finish.
We want, there is one request from Dr. Madan from Delhi. Please show once more that balloon assisted tracking of the deep intubation of guide catheter. That is the case number 12.
You want to see that?
He wants to see that, and we also want to see that. Then another important question.
I will request everybody that, before doing this, you make sure that you are very good at deep intubation. Otherwise, my name will be spoiled that you have taught this and, we have created the problem. So you have to be good with deep intubation.
Then there is one question from Dr. Dalal from Nagpur. Can microcatheter be used to aspirate in case of air embolism?
See, nowadays, if you want to aspirate the air, you have a great catheter in form of Eliminate. Eliminate, somehow Terumo is not marketing very aggressively, but it has a big lumen and it tracks like a snake inside the coronary. Ajay, I will also request you to try that. It's a beautiful catheter to suck even the air, not only thrombus. And it is a good catheter to push your particles, PVC particles, to seal the perforation. So this is the case. See, anterior wall MI was way back and patient already had a CTO, organized clot at left ventricular apex, hypokinetic anterior wall, LV dysfunction. And RCA was total, wire, balloon. And here we injected a lot of air inside and, inadvertently. And here, Ajay, I wanted to make that point. I could see distal RCA is pretty straight and clean and there is a lot of thrombus distally. And that's why I had no hesitation going like this. And then once you reach here, you remove everything. 50 cc syringe is directly to be attached to the hub of the guide, and counterclock rotation of the guide and go on pulling very slowly to remove it. And once you are at the tip, you hold and allow a lot of blood to come out so that the thrombus does not go inside the brain or other places. And this is how you can remove it. And you can see how clean the artery looks and the things become very easy.
There is one question from Dr. Arun Kumar from Bangalore. While doing diagnostic coronary angiogram, if there is a dissection, to secure the vessel before taking out the catheter, can we put a wire with the diagnostic catheter to secure the access?
That will be dangerous. It is always good because you remove the diagnostic catheter with that wire and then you try to push other things. That will, waste a lot of time. There are good chances that wire may go here and there. Wire may go very deep inside some small branch. So it is always good to shift over to the guide catheter.
There is one very interesting question which is coming, the complication that is a stuck burr during doing rota.
Yes.
So they want to know about from you what are the methods to get out of this particular complication.
There I will use Godzilla. If I have a stuck burr of rota, I will use Godzilla, because when you are using rota and burr is stuck in the region, you can be pretty sure that there is a lot of calcium, and Godzilla cannot do much over there as far as the dissection other thing is concerned. And Godzilla can be deep intubated right away and try to pull the burr back. And then still if it is not coming out, you can push a small coronary wire inside, and over it you can keep a balloon and try to sandwich that bulb at a very high pressure inflation of the balloon in the axilla, and then pull it back and should come out.
And Professor Shetty sir, Dr. Sadanand Shetty sir had asked one question, that is a reversal of heparin after perforation, the protocol.
As I told you that plan 1, plan 2, plan 3, plan 4, still I am failing, then those 2 cases which I subjected for surgery, I made sure that I pull my guide catheter back outside the left main or outside the right. My balloon was in left main, my balloon was inflated in the obtuse marginal in that case. Still, we didn't reverse. Balloon was inflated, so the new extra leak was not there. We took the patient up in the surgical theater. Patient was settled on surgical theater. Surgeon scrubbed, and before opening the chest, we reversed.
And there is one question from Dr. Darpan, that is, in case of short left main, if the catheter is always going to the circumflex directly, how to cannulate the LED? In our center, what we do, when the catheter is directly going to the circumflex, we put one coronary wire in that particular vessel, just push that, and then you will get a catheter slightly out, and then we cannulate the LED. But what is your protocol?
Cannulation with a short left main, best thing is to do is to take JL3, not even 3.5. It will have selectively tendency to go towards LA, and you will not fail by and large.
Then there is one question from Dr. Ripen. What is if while retrieving the displaced stent in the LED, the snare gets entangled with the stent and breaks? That can, what we can do? So it is a very question is, I am not able to understand.
I am not able to understand the question, Ajay.
Then what is the role of suction syringe from guide catheter in ostial dissection?
Suction syringe? This question also I am not able to understand.
Then there is one question regarding side branch trapped wire which broke and unravels. What is your approach for the trapped wire which is broken inside the coronaries? Can we take out the trapped wire?
Just leave that trapped wire alone. Doing anything will create more harm to the patient than the benefit. Second thing, yeah, this is important. Jay, I will like to throw some light on this subject. It's many times we trap the wire and then trapped wire is removed after a while when you cross, like in left main bifurcation or LED diagonal or OM circ bifurcation. For new operators, you make sure while you are removing the trap wire, simultaneously you are giving traction to the guide catheter, because that is a time where guide catheter will have a tendency to suck in and create a left main dissection or even the right dissection if you are working, ostial dissection if you are working.
Then there is one question regarding the perforation. In spite of putting 2 covered stent, when we are not seeing any angiographic leak at the site of perforation, in spite of that, we have sent the patient to the surgery. What was the reason? So the reason is that multiple cracks in that.
There was an echo machine inside the cath lab. One of my cardiologists was doing echo and he was telling me that the pericardium is still filling despite not seeing any perforation. It means that there was some leak coming from somewhere. So you can't keep on keep on doing the things for indefinite time. You have to put a full stop to your thought process after a while in the interest of the patient.
Then there is one question coming from Bangalore, Dr. Venkata. Can we put 8 French radial sheath, and what is your experience?
So, see, 6 and 7 slender we are using for all left main bifurcation. 8 French radial sheath, to be very frank, for carotid stenting, we have used the long pinnacle sheaths, you know, of the size, which can accommodate that carotid material. But in that case, I will inject and see the anatomy of the radial, and then only I will do. Only when I find that radial is, reasonably big and clean and straight, I will do that, not otherwise.
Then there is one question coming from Ahmedabad only. Elderly population with osteocritical lesions, what is the stent of your choice? So I know that you are always using US FDA stent. So any particular preference for more radial stent?
The most important thing, Ajay, with all due respect, the young cardiologists, like in our time, we are practicing since now 30 years, you and me. So in our time, because of non-availability of sophisticated hardware, we used to do a lot of brainstorming as far as the character and the behavior of every single tool of the trade is concerned. May it be simply a guide wire, guide catheter, balloon, or stent. So stent behavior one must know. The stent which has good radial strength will not track through very bad tortuosities very easily. And the stent which can track through very bad tortuosities will have somewhat lower radial strength as compared to the stent which has the best radial strength. So if when I'm thinking of a straight segment calcified and I want a good minimal stent area on OCT, my choice will be to take a stent with the best radial strength. The Giants to me is the stent with the best radial strength. If I want to go through the tortuosity, then of course Onyx Orsiro, and then third one is Promus Elite, but Onyx and Orsiro will be on my top list for going through the tortuosities or bad things. Of course, both of them have reasonably good radial stent, but I will not consider the best like Giants. So these are very important things, and you have to know property of every single hardware, and that can help your patient even in getting good acute as well as long-term results.
Then there is one question from Dr. Mehta from Ahmedabad only. Do you feel that after introduction of ticagrelor, use of GP2B3 inhibitors has gone down? Yes.
Of course, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Then there is one question from Dr. Sharma from Rajkot. Keeping a side wire either in sinus or side branch where left main is short and where there is a too much movement of the guide helps in preventing the guide induced dissection. What is your opinion? So he wants to keep one additional wire in the sinus prior to engagement and then engaging. So that is the question.
Coronary wire.
Yes, coronary wire.
Coronary wire, like if engaging is a problem, first wire, even if it is going, if I am supposed to stent LED, first wire, even if it's going in circumflex, I will keep there and then go in LED. Once anywhere in coronary system you have a wire, then your control over the guide catheter will be better, and guide catheter will behave the way you want it to behave.
Then there is one question.
Frankly speaking, Mrutul is a very experienced operator, but I have never kept wire in the sinus. I don't know what is your experience. So I'm not aware of.
While doing not for left main but for RCA osteoplasties, sometimes we keep one additional hanging wire to know the because most of the time we cannot delineate the ostium of the RCA with the different views. And that is the thing, if aorta is dilated, we keep one additional wire in the hanging, but that is for the stent placement. That is not for engagement. Then there is one question: in emergency situation, if covered stent is not available, what are the options? Then it is very difficult scenario.
Very difficult, very difficult. You have to keep your balloon inflated in the perforated segment. Take a quarter size higher balloon, inflate it at a 6, 8 or 10 atmosphere, pull your guide catheter back out of the ostium, and with everything straight away send the patient for surgery.
Hey, we had this similar situation once. So in that situation, we were doing with a radial. So what we had done, we had just keep inflated balloon at the site of the perforation.
Yes.
We had taken another puncture from the femoral,
Yes.
where we had taken a 7F guide, then we engage with 7F guide. Then with existing stent, we decided the size of that vessel, that is a 3 millimeter. Then we open one 3 millimeter balloon and we cut that balloon on both the sides. We use that balloon material. We keep that balloon material on the stent and use another stent to crimp. And then, but that is not scientific.
It was done 25, 30 years ago when nothing was available. It's a good technique if you don't have anything. Secondly, if you have a covered stent, and patient has you have created extremely bad perforation like in mid RCA or LAD proximal mid, and patient is leaking profusely inside the pericardium, inflate your balloon, stabilize, at least decrease or prevent the further leaking, pull the guide back, puncture, go through the groin, take another guide, you cannulate it, put your wire, and along with wire, you put your covered stent, everything wire going just at the proximal segment of inflated balloon, deflate the balloon momentarily for few seconds, just pass the wire through that in the distal area and push your guide, your covered stent in, inflate it, pull the balloon back, inflate that. This is double catheter technique which we have performed in couple of cases and saved the patient.
So there is one question from Dr. Hari from Chennai. What is your guide catheter of choice in case of anomalous RCA from left coronary?
It's a very good thing. We have shown this thing in TRICO several times. My first catheter is JL3. JL3 will hook the right which is arising from left coronary cusp so well and so coaxially that you don't have to do anything. If I fail because of dilated root or distorted root or something, then I will think of left templars and very carefully I will get it. But first choice is JL3.
Then there is one question. How do you take out the microcatheter back over a normal PTCA wire?
Good question. Microcatheter back over normal PTCA wire, you have to put a balloon inside the guide. You have to pull the balloon inside the guide. Once your microcatheter is out and your coronary wire, now you can't see your coronary wire, just leave it like that. Put a balloon, a deflated balloon inside the guide, take it in an area where your wire is there in the guide catheter, maybe in the primary or secondary curve, inflate the balloon, you trap that wire and remove microcatheter so smoothly. This is what we are doing regularly.
And there is very interesting question coming from Dr. Sharma from Mumbai only. Very interesting, very best question. Ethical dilemma, sir, whether to show all the complication steps to the relatives or just the end result.
See, it is always good to show everything, because someday if they take you to the court of law, you don't have to create a story.
Yes.
And if you are telling the truth, you don't have to remember. Every time it will come in the same sequence. So for me, I will tell everything to the patient. Patient may react badly for time being, but then they realize the truthfulness.
That is always there. So in our center also, always our protocol is that each and everything which is happened in cath lab should be reported and should be told to the relatives, and it should be given in the report also. So then there is one question from Palakkad. Can a guide catheter deep intubation be tried in ectatic coronary with thrombus for aspiration?
I tell you, if you are an experienced operator and if the anatomy is favorable, you do, otherwise you don't do. And guide catheter deep intubation was a way to go, but this new technique which we have published, balloon assisted deep intubation, will take away a good amount of razor effect on the endothelium of coronary. So if at all you are using deep intubation, make sure you are using balloon assisted deep intubation and not a naked deep intubation. We still do some cases, but we are nowadays regularly, if we want to deep intubate, we will use balloon assisted deep intubation.
Then there is one question come suggestion from Dr. Akbar from Mumbai. Passing guide wire across left main before first shoot. Is it better strategy during routine PTCA to avoid dissections?
I don't know. So every time you don't have to do that. In some special situation, if you do, it is all right.
Then there is one question from Dr. Sonam. The treatment of resistant thrombus during PAMI. So that is a basically medical management.
Yeah. Treatment of resistant thrombus in PAMI. So you try to remove the thrombus. If thrombus is there and if there is not a good flow, don't deploy the stent. You will do more harm to the patient. So in our lab, we try to get rid of the thrombus very desperately to make sure before deploying the stent. If I feel that there is a lot of thrombus distally and somehow it is not coming out, I have my reservation deploying stent over there because you are creating another thrombogenic situation inside the curve.
Then there is one question from Dr. Samir. That is, what is the easiest bifurcation stenting technique according to you?
In my lab, we are by and large, depending on the angle, like left main if I am working, depending on the angle, we have either provisional T or mini crush. LED diagonal, by and large, it is a short angle. So by and large, if diagonal is 2.25, 2.5 or more, always mini crush. Same with obtuse marginal circumflex, same with PDA PLV. I don't do DK crush and either mini crush or provisional. Yeah, one situation, like if there is anterior wall MI cardiogenic shock and you face an unpleasant surprise when you inject, there is a left main bifurcation stenosis and it's a question of life and death for the patient. You can use simultaneous kissing stent. You can track both the stent together, try to keep a minimal carina and inflate it at left main bifurcation. That too only to save patient's life because that carina is not going to endothelialize and it will act like a metallic prosthetic valve. This technique was described by Dr. Samin Sharma way back. It's a very simple technique for any bifurcation, simultaneous kissing stent, but I am using it only for a situation where I have time in a few minutes, otherwise I am losing my patient. Then to keep my patient alive, I use that. And this technique I am using regularly for iliac bifurcations because there the artery is big, so I am not worried.
Then there is regards from Dr. Sophia Rehman from Bangladesh. All the people are there from Bangladesh are joined. Then there is one question: can we use this balloon tracking technique in patients with a saphenous vein graft?
Dangerous, very dangerous, because that pathology is completely different. It is a very cheesy material. It is very cheesy material. So at least I will refrain myself using that in saphenous vein graft.
Then there is one question: during procedure, sir, had you ever been came across radial artery perforations and how to manage those things?
This is what we have taught the world, how to manage radial artery perforation. Because if I say no, then I am the liar. Everybody is doing radial artery perforation. So radial artery perforation, see, first of all, hematoma, pain, while pushing your wire or catheter, if you come across, if a patient says, ouch, and some hematoma, you always think of radial artery perforation. Hematoma happening in the groin, femoral puncture is a blood oozing from the puncture side. Hematoma happening after radial is by and large perforation of the small branch or radial. It is not the radial puncture perforation, radial puncture site oozing. So once you see this, you inject and you identify the perforation. Once you know that perforation is there, then if you still want to work, use a coronary, soft tip coronary wire, try to negotiate, and then you go using a balloon assisted tracking through the perforation. You finish your procedure. By that time, that catheter will tamponade the perforation, and by and large the leak will stop. If it doesn't stop, then you can use a blood pressure cuff, keep it for 5 minutes at a pressure higher than the systolic pressure, then you deflate for some time, again do, and you disperse hematoma. After a while, the perforation will stop. As of now, I never had to use any covered stent or anything for radial artery perforation. It is a bothersome complication, but it is overall otherwise for a patient, it is practically a benign complication.
There is one question: the tips for removal of badly kinked diagnostic catheter from radial.
So we are now discussing radial instead of the nightmares in the cath lab. Anyways, that publication, our publication is there in Journal of Invasive Cardiology. Reduction of the catheter node. Even in our Blue Atlas, Ajay, we have given these tricks. So by and large, when the kink happens, when there is lot of subclavian tortuosity and your catheter is not cannulating the left main or right, you go on rotating the catheter inadvertently, and after a while you realize that there is no pressure on the system. Why pressure has stopped and no blood is coming out, and then you do fluoro and you see some kink happening somewhere here, somewhere on the right side or left side. So if you see kink, don't get panic. First of all, bring the kink catheter down, because here subclavian is big, axillary is big, brachial is big. Come just above the bifurcation of brachial. Leave that kink over there. Okay. Try to rotate. Sometimes, if you are able to pass 35 wire, you are through, but it doesn't happen most of the time. These hydrophilic wires, they don't help because they don't have muscle. You put a blood pressure cuff, inflate it if the patient's pressure is 140, inflate it at 220. So you trap the distal part of the catheter, distal to the kink. And then under fluoroscopy guidance, you try to reduce the node, and 99.9% you will be out. As of now, we have never called a surgeon to do any arteriotomy or anything. This has been already published. This is our publication. Otherwise, some of the European operators have shown some snaring going through the femoral and holding the distal end and then doing, but that makes the procedure a bit more complex. This is the simplest way of removing the node.
Then there is one question: when there is a previously osteally stented RCA needs re-intervention, what is your guiding catheter of choice? The RCA ostium is already stented.
This is a very, very tricky thing. See, what I will do is I will use, JR if I can use JR. And if I am able to cannulate it, even if non-selectively, I will push my wire in. But once my wire is in, first thing I will do is I will take a balloon and try to go in, because there are many times it may go through the strut and the balloon will not go. If balloon does not go, you come out with the wire and try to cross it again.
Then there is one question: if there is a arteria lusoria, then what is your guiding catheter of choice for left cannulation?
Yeah, by and large, we are using extra backup, EBU 3.5 or EBU 4. But surprisingly, Ajay, sometimes even the left Judkins have helped where EBU is not working. But by and large, EBU. What I do, I tell you, once I enter the ascending aorta, I keep EBU unfolded like this, and then I use a stiff end of the 35 wire, go in, I don't allow it to protrude, and I will, this folded EBU, I will try to unfold only using the 35 stiff tip and make it like this and cannulate.
Then there is one instructions to me. Dr. Mahajan, please convey my compliments to Dr. Tejas first and then go ahead. That is from Dr. Asha Murthy from Chennai.
Oh, thank you.
Then there is one question: is imaging is must for all LMCA interventions?
Always. See, now, till when we were not using imaging, we were using it very sparingly. But I am, Ajay, practically hooked to OCT. And OCT also, they say that left main is not a good area to use OCT, but that is true only for the Caucasian left mains many times. We are using practically 65 to 70% of our interventions are OCT guided. And nowadays, we don't like to do intervention without imaging because the things which you don't see on angio, you see, and most of the bad things on OCT, and that actually helps the patient because you can accordingly modify your strategy.
Then there is one question coming from Dr. Saket from Vadodara. What is your experience about intracoronary thrombolysis?
I don't do. No experience.
Then I also want to just tell something about your new techniques, that balloon trapping, balloon assisted. Another important thing which I had seen at your center, that you do some balloon perforation.
Yeah, perforated balloon technique.
And
yeah,
then
I
we
will love to
nitroglycerin with that for the no reflow phenomenon.
It is published.
The same technique.
Already published in
CCI. We are following same technique in our cath lab. Most of the patients with
acute. Are you happy? Are you happy with that technique?
Yes, yes.
So you inflate the balloon in vitro. You perforate it with very small needle, 2, 3, 4 perforations. Deflate it, then again inflate, and allow the perforated balloon to ooze a little bit, and with the same oozing you push it through very deep inside the artery, and then you give adenosine or diltiazem or whatever you want to give, because
there is less hypotension
no other way going distal to the total occlusion to give to give any this coronary vasodilator.
So then there is one question regarding that. What are the advances in bifurcation stenting, particularly in patients with only left vein with a trifurcation? So there are 3 vessels coming from left vein.
See, I will like to make the things simple in my lab. If there is left main with trifurcation, you can't have all 3 branches very big. Most of the time, the ramus is small. Very few times you see small circ and a big ramus. So I will be selectively blind to that small branch, and the trifurcation will be converted into bifurcation. I will fix it rather than making it too complicated.
Do you use any culotte technique for bifurcations in left main?
No. Culotte we are not using in our lab. No. Our technique is mini crush or provisional T.
So can you tell us something about which are the new things which are coming in your mind for improving the safety of procedures with a transradial, like a new thing which was coming, dorsal radial for
yeah, dorsal radial we are using almost now more than 900 cases we have done. Dorsal radial, if you want to
then shitless,
it is palpable properly. If it is not palpable, you don't. And even left main bifurcations, we have done several with distal radial without any problem, but we make sure that we are using only the slender sheath.
Then sheathless procedures, sheathless guiding catheters.
Yes, I tell you, till before we, when we did not have the slender sheath systems available, what I used to do, this is also a publication in CCI, combo technique, that is modified sheathless and mother and child. You even today also, like if I want to do in some other lab where they don't have slender, and if I want to use a 7 French guide, then I will take any 7 French sheath, deploy only 2 centimeter inside the radial, and then go in with the guide up to the aorta. I'll cannulate, and once I have cannulate, I will remove that, I will sleeve that sheath over the guide. There may be very minimal oozing, but I don't want to push a 7 French sheath inside the radial.
Then there is one question from my side only. In which situation you use a left radial or right radial?
Left radial I will use when I want to go infradiaphragmatic, in particularly
Renal interventions.
renal, iliac, etc.
And Lima.
And you are eliminating the 10 or 15 centimeter length of arch of aorta. It straight away dives inside the descending aorta. You can finish it very fast.
Then there is one question from Dr. Guba from Delhi. Tell us about a TAP stenting versus T stenting. Which one do you do? I think TAP and T are same. There is a T with a minimal protrusion is a TAP. Then there is one question, there is always necessary to do post dilatation in case of covered stent for perforation in ACS and thrombotic situation?
Covered stent, whenever you are using, you have to post dilate it properly, because otherwise the blood will find its way to enter pericardium from here and there. Because that area, you have to presume that most of the time it is a heavily calcified or fibrocalcific area. And when there is fibrocalcific area, you don't see coronary as a circle. Coronary may be like this or this. So there is a chance that the blood will traverse in the pericardium. So make sure that you are post dilating your covered stent very well.
I think we had very long and lucid discussion about this particular topic. Now people might directly approach you with their difficulty.
I'm really overwhelmed with the interest of all the participants, and really enjoyed actually.
And I see there are multiple messages regarding your atlas. People want to see your atlas and read your atlas about the complication. It is one of the most learning material. So they will also get in touch with you. So I will hand over the proceedings to Mr. Amish Dave for vote of thanks. He is from Torrent. From my side, many thanks to the Torrent Pharma for making this webinar most successful and giving us the world-class operator as a teacher for today's learning. So I am giving back to podium to Mr. Amish Dave from Torrent.
Sir, I consider it my proud and privilege to offer the vote of thanks on behalf of Torrent Pharma. And today it was a very unique webinar on managing nightmares in the cath lab has just been concluded. And I'm humbled to see such a good and huge participation in this program from cardiologists, not only from India, but also from abroad. And today's program was very much exciting, informative, very much interacting and enlightening for all of us. I also take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to the eminent panel members for sharing their experience and expertise with all of us. Thank you, Dr. Ajay Mahajan, and thank you, Dr. Tejas Patel. We are really enlightened with your rich experience. My heartfelt thanks to all the distinguished delegates who had took their time out of their busy schedule to attend this program, without whom this event would not have been successful. Your trust on Torrent encourages us to conduct more and more such programs, and I'm sure that your support will remain with Torrent in times to come. I thank you, all of you. Stay safe and have a wonderful day. Thank you once again to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.